Welcome to the Brain Software Podcast. In episode 176, that's this one, we're going to talk all about control, how people try to control you, how to recognize it, and how to avoid it. Let's get started.
Disclaimer. This podcast is such a remarkable font of arcane brilliance that all but the most dursative among you will gain remarkable and truly glanative benefits. On the other hand, there is sometimes a preponderance of self-indulgent and largely irrelevant context-free humor, so consider yourself warned. Lucci.
Greetings, world, and welcome to episode 176 of the Brain Software Podcast, emanating from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. I'm Chris Thompson, a.k.a. Fritz Thompson. That's for you, Victoria. And today, hypnosis trainer Mike Mandel and I are discussing how people are systematically controlled by cults, by nasty people, and even unscrupulous governments. So, stay tuned.
Hey man, what's going down, Scroll? Just slit the throat of a man your age, but I got a joke for you. Why couldn't the lifeguard save Dave Ambrose from drowning, man? Because it was too far out, bag, get it? I'm the guy who makes Cheech and Chong look Amish, dude. Anyway, I'm a little tired, Pouch. I was out late last night, bumping in the Vumpery, and despite the fact that it's raining in the rainery and I'm zoning out like Jack the Outzoner, we gotta ask a choice question. Isn't that the hospital where you died? Oh, sorry, wrong question sheet. It's here somewhere. Okie dokie, here we go. Whatever happened to that old tranquility circa 1967 we used to low and love, Scroll?
These are days of victory. So let's welcome to the Wizard's Lair a man of blistering persuasion, the sharpest needle in this sewing kit. That's a good one. And the man who just had a birthday, yes! Mike Mandel.
Yes, Chris. That was a great one. I didn't endanger my neck at all.
So I like that.
Fantastic.
So you are
wrenching in the wrenchery.
This is our first podcast
I'm
since
68
your birthday.
now.
You're a 68-year-old man.
I'm 60-effing-8. How has that happened? You know, I remember being an 18-year-old guy singing the song 18 in the band Bludgeon as the vocalist. That's 50 years ago. Come on.
You know what you're making me think of? The song by Bryan Adams, 18 till I die.
No, I have a rule. No Bryan Adams.
No Bryan Adams, no Bono.
Here's my thought to Bryan Adams if he's watching. I'm sure
love
he
Bryan
is.
Adams. He's awesome.
Clear your throat.
All right.
Okay. So here we go.
Bryan Adams, Canadian, awesome.
And largely
I
irrelevant.
also want to mention, I was telling you before the podcast, just to plug the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, which is on Spotify. I was listening to the interview that he did with Mark Sisson, who was also your age, and two examples of how there's no excuse to be out of shape in your 60s, in your 70s, basically until the day you die, right?
That's good, man.
I didn't mark that out at you. Just,
no, thanks.
It was not an analog marking.
Trying to kill me always. Now, listen, this is interesting because what we did have is I had pizza on my birthday.
Oh, you
We got a large pizza Nova with artichokes and everything.
How's that going?
Bottle of wine between my wife and I, and then I had a quarter of a rhubarb something else pie from Mandel. It was fantastic. I'm bloated in the bloatery today,
okay.
but this too will pass. So let's get into
pretend
this.
that never happened.
Yeah,
so we're going to go through a bunch of stuff today that is about control. Now, there's no specific agenda here other than a good discussion about how people, whether it's individuals, groups, cults, etc., are controlling others, right?
Yeah.
Why are we sharing this with people?
This is the solid content, despite all the lunacy.
I'm just going to adjust my position here.
I wondered what you're about to say. I'm just about to adjust my tools. Now, listen, here's the thing that's interesting in this. Everybody is subject to control by other people. Some of it is with all the right intentions in the world.
Yeah.
But then there's other controlling methods that are used by nefarious governments, cults, and nasty people like psychopaths and pathological narcissists. And these are the ones we want you to know about.
Right.
Because being forewarned is being forearmed.
Is being
forward.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going. All right, we're going to move on. All right, so we're going to work think tank words of the day, and these will magically appear on screen for those watching on YouTube. Oh, and by the way,
technology. We each got our iPad Pro Maxes.
I want to disclose this too. We got some great feedback on, I think it was episode 174, which will be live by now. We're no longer adding in any laugh tracks or
Well, I never did.
Stuff. Yeah, I know. It was just experimentation, but
Yeah.
we accept it, so it's okay.
Frankenstein was
We're going back to our
experimentation,
normal
too.
way of doing things. All right, so
I've noticed I'm wearing the Newfoundland hat.
Yes.
Newfoundland Labrador, given to me by the Tourist Board of Newfoundland and Labrador. We did a haunted lighthouse tour. This is what it's from, buddy. It's as me at my
did
finest.
they give you that hat just as a way of controlling you, Mike?
Shut up.
Yeah. there we go. All right, think tank. You want to do them?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. Think tank words generated by the Savo Bukacek Think Tank.
Bloody
the
heck.
first one is,
Nice.
and we take the ones that come up. First one
Nice,
is
nice. Another word I don't know. Physiognomy.
physiognomy.
I read it wrong. Physiognomy?
Yeah.
All right.
And amber.
So
That girl used to go out with.
for those
And
listening,
allure.
we're going to physio, which is the normal spelling, and then Gnomy. So physiognomy, but
Yeah.
the G is silent. What does that mean?
Well, it's from physio, meaning physiotherapy, and nomi from the word gnome, meaning doing physiotherapy on gnomes. Did I scare you? It was fantastic.
Is there a real
Notice how
definition?
hard I went on this, scary. I threw my head
Yeah,
back a bit too much. The
sure,
spinous processes of my neck kind of crunched. I wish I'd just gone, did I scare you? Instead of, or do I? Okay, now look, physiognomy is someone's facial features.
Oh, no
and
kidding.
the shape
Okay.
of their face.
So the physical features of the face.
Yes, and our
Okay.
friend David Snyder
He's a face
is
reader
trained
guy.
in Chinese
Yeah.
face reading,
Yes.
which, and you know who else is in Gotham in India, another student
Yes.
friend of ours. David Snyder can look at your face and tell you stuff about yourself. Like, I'm looking at you grinning for no reason, and I know that this
Grinning
this
in the grinnery.
You're grinning in the grinnery, like Jack the frickin'
On
grinner.
Grinner, yeah.
And it just looks like you've got some deep, dark, horrible secret
I
that you're
probably
about
do.
to reveal.
Yeah, there we
okay,
go.
so anyway, I don't know anything about physiognomy other than when people smile.
Okay, so we're
going to work that in.
We'll bring it up. So
Yeah.
facial features, control, cults, governments. We'll see what happens here. Oh, I can think of some ideas.
Now, I can throw
already.
these together. I said the physiognomy of Amber,
Well,
the
what's
girl you
so-
used to go out with,
And then, well, we
has
have
a
to-
certain allure.
You're skipping ahead. We haven't
know.
even said what the word is. So word number two
No,
is.
I've said them already. If you're listening to the recording, I've named all three.
There you go. So okay, just
Amber, what do you get from Amber
We'll edit
other
that
than
out.
the obvious?
I get Amber Alert, which shows up on your phone. That's the first thing that comes to mind. You know, when
man.
your phone in the middle of the night goes.
Yes.
"Brrr, brrr,"
Yeah,
you
or
know.
if you're in Honolulu, it goes off and tells you it's an incoming nuclear
let's-
attack.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a color that represents warning. So I'm thinking of warning. Warning signs. It might come into the control mechanism here of warning signs.
Okay, now I'm thinking of ambergris,
Okay.
which is the stepping stone. Ambergris, of course, comes from Wales, and it's used in a lot of perfume. And it's the amber scent comes originally from Wales. Now they can make it without endangering animals, which is good. Just like skunk stinkiness is used to make perfumes as well. In tiny micro amounts. It's
No
really nice in
kidding.
perfumes. Yeah, things you would learn, Watson.
Wild.
That's why you hang out with me,
Oh,
Watson.
right. Yeah, this is
so
all part of
Amber,
building
this
the
is not
schema.
just a girl's name, and a good one. What about Rebma?
What?
Amber backwards. Scary thing had some new talent. Allure.
Allure.
So
So
not
this-
just say allure, say allure.
Allure.
Well, you speak
Yeah,
French.
yeah,
You're
there you go.
probably Français.
Allure.
Say allure.
Allure.
Yeah, so what do you get from
Yeah,
you bring a bit too much throat into
Allure.
it.
Yeah, it's the Quebec background in me.
Oh, no.
I would say
God
the
help
allure,
us.
the drawing towards of something.
What's this?
When you're drawing,
You're-
yeah, I know.
It's
The
the-
hoisting.
Just speak without using your freaking hand.
Again, for podcast audio only listeners, I'm doing some weird hand gesture
Yeah,
that represents
that
hoisting.
leaves it open way too
hoisting
much
in the
to
hoistery.
interpretation
All
for
right,
them.
so allure, being drawn towards something, somehow
Yeah.
being unconsciously drawn towards something. It's a good thing I didn't say just yet.
Yeah, there it is.
Just
Just.
drawn towards something.
Yes.
And I think this is going to fit nicely with the idea of control.
Chris,
because how are people controlled? They're drawn towards
Yes.
things without necessarily being consciously
That's
aware
it.
that it's happening.
That's fantastic.
Slippery
well
slope.
put. Slippery slope with a certain ending that just bites the wand on the very end.
All right. So,
So-
not to control you.
No,
But
but
let's
let's go on.
Let's move on.
So all about control today. Well, you know, one of my first points is an obvious one. Some people like to control other people. They actually kind of thrive doing that.
Yeah.
And I know people, friends of mine, both male and female, who have been in controlling relationships that have been horrible. And I think if you're in a controlling relationship and you're the one being controlled, you really need to wake up to this and recognize that no human being has a right to just randomly control another person for their freaking convenience.
Okay, let me ask this. Is there a difference in your mind between someone who just harmlessly in their mind, they're not doing it with bad intent, is controlling in a way that is like controlling the conversation.
Yeah, of
sort
course.
of dominate versus.
Well, you do that all the time. I never even mentioned
there
it.
you go. We're talking about, this is about me.
Me.
We're talking about me.
We're at work right
controlling a conversation,
Yeah.
maybe because they have this deep-rooted need to feel significant or whatever, but it's not ill intent, right?
Right.
Versus someone who is really trying to, let's say, control the behavior of maybe their spouse or maybe their kids, and they're really overbearing, and this is not a good thing for anyone in the situation.
That's a really good point, Chris, because we're not putting this just across the board, controlling. Think of our friend Ryan. He's an Enneagram 1. He attempts to control, but he's controlling because he's trying to make things better. He's trying to fix things.
In a good way, yeah. He's a good kind of controller.
Now, having said that, I'm aware of a friend, nobody you know, in fact. So that's going to stop you doing internal calculations to try to figure it out. And it's not me. Yeah. So, when someone says, well, when I was a therapist, people would always say, well, I got a friend. It's you. Yeah. It's you.
Well, let's turn into the joke, right? Asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so you're asking for a friend
who looks exactly like you.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a friend of mine. I'm not asking for this person, but she's in a marriage, young woman, very nice person. But her husband tell me this doesn't set up freaking red flags going up like Jack the freaking red flag raiser. He has a secret room in their house.
What?
And she is never allowed to go in. It's locked. And when he's in there, I'm a gamer. I just don't like to be bothered.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one person's gamer is another person's freaking psychosexual lunatic, So she was asking my wife about it. And Heather said,
breaking in there.
Heather said, yeah, this is a huge red flag. I said, get a locksmith and go in. Like, absolutely. Oh, no, there's nothing. Then let her in.
Yeah.
Now, that is control.
Yeah.
He is controlling an entire area of his life and not giving her access. And I think that's a nightmare.
It's definitely a red flag. I mean, just think, what building may the guy have leased that she doesn't know about, or other, just anything. That's a huge red flag.
Well, now, having said that, 2 points. I'm sorry for the Brits and the Australians
2 points.
and New Zealanders.
It's okay.
It's the upward motion, right? 2 points. One of them is, I think you and I should purchase some actual red flags as props here, and we can lift them. I think that would.
In the meantime,
anyone
we can
wishes
have them.
to send them to us, we'll send you the address, and we will accept the gifts as well as bottles of single malt scotch. Just
That's
if
hilarious.
you're so inclined. Now, listen.
All right, keep going.
The other one is this. I have another friend who has since passed away. It's someone you know, and she was a good friend of my wife's. Her husband, and I think she was his third wife.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Red flags going up. He worked. He had an office, but he wouldn't tell her where it was, anything about it. And he'd just go to work and be back hours later. Oh, I was at work. Where is it? Oh, you don't need to know. It's the same thing again.
Do you know you watch those movies sometimes where the one person in the relationship is like a CIA agent and pretends to be a carpet cleaner or something. Like his whole family just thinks he runs a carpet clean, some completely innocuous business like carpet cleaning or consulting or whatever it is, right? And then at some point there's a trauma that goes on, and the family discovers this guy's really in the CIA or whatever, and it's like worse than that, because you're not even lying. You're just saying, I'm not going to tell you what I do or where I work.
I know.
What the heck is that?
That's a huge red flag.
And that is, in fact, that's more, in my mind, a control element, because you're unconsciously getting the other person to accept that they don't know. And that's okay.
And that's terrible.
Here's a fence, and you know about the fence, and you're not allowed to go on the other side of the fence, metaphorically.
Yeah.
And you must accept this.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's scary stuff, isn't it? I don't know anybody who would.
Okay, so these are some more, we're building up to some warning signs here,
now,
right?
Individuals in relationships and cults and nefarious governments, who shall be unnamed, one of the main ways they control people is through fear. And this is a classic one. It doesn't have to be fear that something's going to happen to you. And I want to point out, Chris, that since we've been on the air, I have not glanced at the freaking monitor even once.
Well, Ross will be very happy.
So I'm looking at the camera.
He won't be sending me Slack messages saying, did Mike have a stroke?
And I'd like to celebrate that fact right now by doing this for the first and only time.
Oh, yeah. The gesture.
Now, if you're listening, I have just pushed my lower lip out with my tongue for no good reason, making weird facial expression, opening my fingers wide, and jamming them together 3 times.
He's been coaching me on how to do this very strange gesture.
I have.
There's
been teaching him how to do it.
There's always these subtleties in how you do these gestures or interventions, like the
You're calling
invisible.
this an intervention?
You know the invisible tie intervention where
Yeah.
you go, oh, not very interesting.
Use the other hand to hold the bottom
You're
of the tie.
pretending to adjust your tie, and I'm trying to describe this accurately
And
for
failing.
the listeners, but I think we actually have to do a YouTube video on that pattern. Anyway, let's continue.
Okay,
Let's
so
continue.
fear is a classic way, and not just fear of, oh, something bad will happen, but not just fear of physical violence, but fear of things like, oh, I will leave you. That's control.
Yeah,
That's a terrible one.
For sure.
I'll tell people your secrets. All I know, people become intimate with someone that you find out stuff about. My God knows, I got 1,000 things that could sink your freaking ship in an instant.
So if you're, yeah,
you didn't even say anything.
No, I didn't know you're talking about me. I didn't even realize it was a joke.
It was a joke.
Yeah,
but
it was funny to you.
In a marriage, anybody can. We open up and we talk about stuff, and in a bad relationship, people will hold that against you. They'll hold it over your head like a proverbial sort of Damocles, he says, invoking Greek culture. But that's interesting, isn't it? Fear, it can be fear of just about anything. Fear of ending the relationship, fear of financial loss. If you don't do this, this will happen. And I said, nefarious governments have used this as well. When people are afraid, they become more suggestible. Why are you leaning like a freaking matador?
Oh, I was just going to point out that I was very admiring how your posture is very Milton Erickson-esque.
What look like I'm in a freaking wheelchair. Thanks, buddy. Well,
I was adjusting my posture.
Like this. I thought, well,
I was fixing my posture. Nice calibration. I'm doing the Captain Morgan pose here. All right.
Now, that's interesting because when I used to play Dungeons and Dragons, when it first came out a million years ago, I would always ride into a town and I would describe to the dungeon master, I'm riding with my fist on my hip. And he'd say, you're just going to cause problems. Just ride in normally. It doesn't have to be an attitude. Okay, so look, fear of loss, fear of retribution, fear of disclosure.
If somebody is making you feel like you will lose something, whether it be your personal safety and security, the connection with a person, perhaps the person who's controlling you, a connection with your family, moving you, causing you fear in some way, that's a sign. It's
a very bad thing. And some people control through passive aggression.
Okay.
Foot dragging.
Describe for people listening, watching, what passive aggressive means in the simplest possible
I'm going to give you a
terms.
perfect example. Okay. Passive aggression controls people not by doing anything, but by intentionally not doing things. So they don't, passive aggressives don't give your message.
Oh, so like,
they forget to tell you things.
The doctor did call.
Yeah, and, I thought you knew. In fact, our friend Paul, one of the funniest things seemed passive aggressive, and it wasn't. His daughter Jennifer, who's my courtesy niece, I've known her since she was born, love her dearly. I'm her Uncle Mike. And she, just before Christmas a couple of years ago, she was making us Christmas dinner, and Paul said, just wish I could hear from that doctor. I had a bunch of tests done, and I haven't heard. Jennifer stops cooking because, oh, Dad, he called. He said, when? She said, about 5 days ago. He wanted to hear back from you before he goes on summer vacation. He's got your test results. And he's like, what? Now, a passive-aggressive would do that intentionally.
Okay, she had just forgotten.
Right. Yeah. Now, we had a horrendous passive-aggressive thing, and I'm going to frame this in ways that will not result in a lawsuit.
Okay.
But we had a passive-aggressive who was connected to Heather and I, and we were doing a certain plan, and all he did was, no, I don't like that.
Oh, yeah.
Not crazy about that idea. About. And she said, well, I'm not getting it right. I said, it isn't that. He has a plan of what he wants to do. And anything you suggest that's not that plan, he says no to, but he gives you the illusion of choice.
Yeah.
Well, inexorably steering you towards what he wants.
Okay.
It's
and this was a situation where the other party had some legal rights at that time, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And what is amazing to me, Chris, I was thinking about this on the way here in the car, how I have managed to go 68 years
without going
to prison for murder is just amazing. Is absolutely amazing.
He's just kidding in case there are any hidden microphones.
Microphones are overt ones wearing brand new jelly socks. Those of you looking. So another one
I can't believe you just said that.
I want to give some great examples of how control happens, and I'm using them all from the 20-year series Hell's Kitchen, however many seasons it was. It is perfect. Because the producers who
did you say producers?
I did edit that out. The producers who came up with this show. I'm not blaming Gordon Ramsay because I love the guy.
Yeah.
My wife got me for my birthday a Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, you
chef's
sent me the
jacket,
photo.
the
Looked
exact
great.
one he wears. It's amazing. Anyway, so Hell's Kitchen, they use so many control techniques that are used by cults.
Okay.
We're going to whistle through these fairly quickly.
And I've not watched the show, so I'm just going to let you talk.
He's not
There you go.
watching.
Hell's
This
Kitchen.
is raw.
So for anyone else who hasn't, my understanding of it is it's kind of like a cooking reality show, competition.
Yeah.
People are competing for
Teams are competing.
Teams are competing.
to have a very high $250,000 a year chef's position in a premier restaurant.
All right. So these guys are under enormous pressure.
Yeah.
They've got to perform
In the performery, yeah.
All right.
And so the first one is a charismatic and powerful leader. Cults and governments use that.
So Gordon Ramsay would play that role in this particular show.
Absolutely.
Everyone looks up to him.
The guy's charismatic. He was a soccer player. He's a professional soccer player. He's super
he
fit.
was? Wow.
Yeah, he's kept his fitness. His son's a Royal Marine, but he's very charismatic. He's got an unusual look. He's in your face. He's very strong. And that is immediately going to give him prestige, which we know as hypnotist does what?
Well, that prestige makes you more hypnotic. I mean, it gives you the ultimate authority. It creates heteroaction going into any situation.
You said that so well. I'm going to give you the special blessing.
All right.
Lucci.
Lucci, there we go.
Look, the other one is browbeating and insults. The show, apparently they bleep out all the swearing on the Food Network, but they don't when you watch it on, I guess it's Amazon
Like
Prime.
Amazon Prime. So there's just tons of swearing.
Just off the scale.
Beep, 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 beep,
But
beep.
he's
Morse
just
code.
so furious, and he browbeats them. He calls them idiots. He tells them that this meal looks like, baby's diarrhea, and just all of this. But it did. I mean, to be fair, it actually did look. I've heard.
Okay.
So the browbeating and the insults knock people down. He's looking for people who are going to fight back. He said that before. But it forces people into unresourceful ego states.
Okay, now, of course, this wouldn't work if it was only done in that manner. Like if all he did was abuse people.
Wouldn't work at all.
he
And we'll
wouldn't have any
get to that.
respect.
That's very
Okay.
good spotting.
We'll
And I'd like to point out
pause.
for the record, if you and I were on that show, we wouldn't take it.
No, we would just...
Just neck cranks,
Accent, elbow strike.
Yes, thank you, Gordon. I
Tiger
love him.
claw. All right.
Okay, now the other one is isolation. Isolation is a classic means of control. We see it in relationships. We have a friend right now who's been going out with this guy for a couple of years, and there's red flags going up. He does things like her kids have said, oh, he has a lot of cell phones. He's always leaving them here and forgetting a lot of them. And I showed how you can set the voice recorder and leave it overnight and then come back and hear what they've said when he's left. He observed my wife and I arriving and then spun away in his car. He's got a little crappy car that's full of junk food and garbage, according to the kids. That's endemic with psychopaths and serial killers. You'll see this in books like Whoever Fights Monsters, Robert K. Ressler.
Interesting.
They have messy, horribly messy cars. Anyway, I'm not saying he's a psychopath, but I'm not saying he isn't either. This guy has now, since we went over and she wanted to know what we thought, he wouldn't meet us. He wouldn't call. He's always couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And she said we had insights and congruence and these things in my understanding of handwriting. And so he has now, we believe, stopped her having any contact with us for over a year.
That's wild.
She had us
because
over.
you, even though he's never met you, you've been described as this interesting person, and you're a threat.
He's freaked out. Yeah. So controlling through isolation, keeping people away from friends, keeping people away from family and significant others who can have input.
So these are some warning signs for
when
sure
my
here.
wife's friend was dying of cancer, her husband tried to stop us coming to see her.
That's
And
weird.
Heather basically said, screw you. She's my best friend. I'm coming over. And we just showed up at the hospital, wouldn't take no for an answer. And we saw her the day before she died. And I'm glad we did. But isolation, controlling people who isolate, that's a huge red flag. You are autonomous. Anybody who limits your autonomy is evil. Chris, is something good coming up. I can tell by that sudden intake of breath and the cranking of your own neck.
I want to make sure. Yeah, so I got this weird like neck tension
Cancer.
today. Maybe it's the position. I'll adjust myself so that I can
Never adjust yourself in public. My dad taught me that.
Here's what I want to know. What's the incentive?
hilarious.
So what is in it for the controlling person? And then I want to make sure you're driving this conversation.
Yeah.
You've got the notes. My
Yeah.
iPad is off. I'm not even looking at
No,
it.
I have notes, but they're bullet points. I mean, this is largely spinning from my own brain.
How can we relate this to groups, to organizations, to governments, etc.? But before we get there, what is in it for the controller? So in this situation where a man is controlling a woman and not letting her, I'm using those air quotes for letting, because obviously people still have to take control of themselves, and we need to get to that. You cannot let yourself be stuck at an environment and go, oh, he or she won't let me see such and such a person.
That's insane.
There's no gun to your head.
No.
There's a psychological operation going on, and you need to take control, recognize these warning signs, take control, get out of the situation, change the situation, make sure that what you're willing to agree to and not agree to is clear.
Yeah.
But what's in it for this controller?
Well, it's hard for us. It's hard for us to imagine, and for any normal person to imagine. But there are people who thrive on controlling other people. It's what they do. It makes them feel powerful,
maybe more important,
and that's why the isolation happens, because isolation maintains their control.
Okay.
You look at groups like Heaven's Gate Cult with the Hale-Bopp Comet, who they said, they got everyone to drink poison, and everybody, even though it was insane.
Okay.
The group was controlled and isolated.
So
and you look at Pol Pot in Cambodia, you look at Hitler, the classic example, Mao, controlling and murdering entire populations. Some people are so freaking weird.
Okay, so
they get off on that.
Is this basically, in your mind, the same way that some sick person might hurt animals or whatever, just for some sick pleasure?
A need to make themselves feel powerful through some means.
Okay, got you.
So back to Hell's Kitchen.
Okay.
Now, another thing they do is they keep people off balance in this show and in cults and so on. They keep them off balance. They're sometimes woken in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. with horrendous noises blasting and speakers. Oh, firefighters are here. The restaurant's full of 100 firefighters. You got to make breakfast for them.
Oh,
and there's something,
nice.
Dressing at 3 a.m.
Planned in advance.
Of course.
Yeah.
So when you're kept off balance, so you don't know what's coming up, it makes you very, very easy to control.
Weird.
Also, the one you said about not always the browbeating, you're correct. Because to control in a cult setting, they alternate love bombing.
Yeah, we were talking about
bombing.
that. Okay.
Oh, we love you. You're great. We're here for you. We're God's people. All of this, whatever it is. But they alternate that with despair.
Okay, so you're putting someone in a position where there's enough love bombing going on. I said that weird. Love bombing. Bombing.
It's very weird.
Going on.
Yeah.
That's what they want. That's what the controlled person feels good with.
Well, of course.
When the love bombing's
What's
going
happening
on.
with love bombing? You're building the human givens of being part of a group.
It's their
you're
love
being
languages,
affirmed.
right?
It's their love language, and it's causing a massive dopamine release.
So maybe there are gifts, maybe there are words of affirmation, maybe there's quality time going on, or any of the other love languages. What am I missing? Physical touch and acts of service. So those things could be happening, and then that's juxtaposed with
horrendous,
you are
horrendous,
like anti-love languages. We just did a video on this called The Flip Side of Love Languages. So the opposite of that, the browbeating, the horrendous stuff, and that leaves someone feeling stuck in the middle. What am I? Am I loved or am I hated? Right?
There we are.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a good point. Realize what the love bombing does is it causes a dopamine release.
Yeah.
Dopamine is a reward chemical, and that's what it does. And when you alternate that with telling people they're crap, they're useless. See, when one team gets a reward in Hell's Kitchen, they are taken out. They might fly them to Las Vegas for the day. They're put in a suite at Paris, Las Vegas, that you can't imagine to see it. And there's food there and all this stuff. They have the best day. Then they go on a shopping spree. They're each given $1,000 cash to buy new clothes.
Nice.
Meanwhile, the other team that didn't win the challenge, they're forced to clean the kitchen, clean the dorms, unload trucks full of ice.
So there's your opposites ends of the spectrum.
Punishment and reward, back and forth. Again, maintaining the off balance.
Not just not winning, but being subjected
losing.
to have to do all the crap.
Absolutely losing. So it's the carrot and the stick.
Okay.
Rewards, massive rewards, and horrible punishments as well. Now, what this does, Chris, is it causes a bifurcation between the two groups, the red team and the blue team, so they hate each other even more.
Did you just say tream?
I did say tream, but we'll edit that out. Tream is a brand new word. It's a combination of trimming and pouring cream in your coffee. I like to trim this coffee once I trim the cup down with a pair of scissors. There, you've learned something today, boys and girls. Grow up. I'm kidding. Now look, so the carrot and the stick.
Okay.
Sleep deprivation, classic control method. When, British SAS soldiers, still in the middle of a sentence, comma, not a period. I'm saying British SAS, when they're going through, escape and evasion and so on, they're subjected to horrendous sleep deprivation.
Okay.
Because what that does is it breaks down resistance. And to be able to maintain your resistance, look how politely you're listening now. You're listening so politely, it's actually insulting.
I'm just politing in the politery.
Notice I didn't call you a bastard.
Yes.
I called you a bastard.
Yes.
So
yes.
Sleep deprivation, Hell's Kitchen. Do you know they're in there for about 5 weeks to do one season?
That is so long.
They get
Wow.
an average of about 5 hours sleep a night.
That's not enough sleep. I mean, it's
even for you.
That's not the level that, let's say, if you were obviously abusing someone and depriving them, you'd probably give them 2 hours or something. Like when they want to interrogate someone or whatever in terrorist situations, what do they give you? They don't let them sleep for 48 hours, 60 hours plus whatever. But this is almost like just enough to I just said it again, like just enough to feel like you're maybe sort of rested, but definitely not adequate.
I know why you're saying just. I figured it out why you don't say just. I've figured out the psychological thing here. You're endeavoring to avoid giving away, tipping your obsession with Justin Bieber and Justin Timberlake.
I was wondering where you
and Justin Trudeau. I'm a comic genius.
Oh,
I wrote that at that moment.
We cannot talk about Justin Trudeau on this podcast.
No, he's our prime minister.
We deny that this podcast has anything to do with any of this.
At all.
Right.
And we are not podcasting from St. Michael's College, University of Toronto, Brennan Hall. We are not affiliated with them at all, and we're not even going to mention
What else are we going to say isn't
I'm still
true?
going here,
all
buddy.
right, keep going.
Now,
keep going. This is interesting.
Degradation. This degrades people and breaks their humanity.
Okay.
So they don't feel the power to resist. Classic example, Hell's Kitchen. They kept screwing up on the scallops. Now, scallops I love.
Yeah.
But Gordon Ramsay is a perfectionist with food. And they'd come back and he'd go,
Scallops are difficult too, right?
this is effing raw because the pans aren't hot enough. If you want to be hot enough to get the crispy outside, if they're not getting the crispy outside, they keep cooking them too long.
And then they get
become
overcooked.
So they ruined like about 80 scallops trying to get these done. And of course, he's yelling at them to hurry up, which makes them cook them incorrectly again. You know what the punishment was for the losing team?
No.
Scott, who's Gordon Ramsay's sort of heavy. I like this guy. He's got hair like mine, and he's really interesting. He's the sous chef. He helps with everything. But Gordon Ramsay walked out of the kitchen. He was so mad. He said, I'm leaving. I'm done. Walked out through the entire restaurant, through everybody eating, and Scott just automatically walks out with him as his heavy, which is just freaking great. Now, look, as an 8, I love that.
And what was the punishment, though?
The punishment was
Get to
Scott,
the point.
Scott, the heavy, had them all sit down, the losing team. He brought out all the scallops that they had ruined. There's about 80 of them, I think. Put them in a frickin' blender, blended them, and they all had to drink them. And some were almost raw. Some just drink about a 12 to 14 ounce glass of scallops.
So if you, not you
which is what makes
specifically,
the show
but
so damn entertaining.
So if one, I'm going to change the way I refer to people. Not if you, if one was to degrade someone enough that they don't feel that they are important on a relative basis, this is not an absolute scale. Relative to the controller, they feel inferior, really inferior.
Down.
Therefore, they will not challenge these punishments.
No, and you know how he
feel the strength.
Here's the cleverness of avoiding the challenge. He urges them to leave and quit.
Oh, and
to get a polarity response. So he says, "You're done, aren't you? You're through. You got nothing left. Do you want to get out? You want to go home? No, chef, I don't." And then they rally again.
This, by the way, is a really good example of the no. It's in a sense a no set. Yes
Pretty
sets
much.
and no sets are so related in my mind. A yes set, we get somebody to agree with us by saying yes, so that we smooth the way towards whatever's next. In a no set, we actually still get them to agree with us by saying no. And in this case,
it discharges resistance.
Yeah, it discharges resistance. And another way of using it might be, I think we learned this from Chris Voss in hostage negotiation discussions in his book, Never Split the Difference. He'll say something like, would it be ridiculous to think that I should expect a good experience? That's not ridiculous.
And they say no. And by saying no, they now feel in control again.
Right. So
even though they're not.
And in this case, it's a challenge for them to do something. And they say no, which means Cialdini principle of commitment and consistency. You've said you're not quitting. Therefore, not only do you feel you're stacking influence techniques here, right? You're inferior and you haven't quit. You've committed to not quitting.
I think we got the point.
Drink the darn scallops.
You don't have to hammer it into the rectum.
There you go.
We got the point.
Right.
Okay.
So now you've said that and jelly sock.
Jelly sock's meaningless. Now listen, the other one is breaking down individuality for the esprit de corps. So you know the esprit de corps comes from
is that?
It's what Marines have.
Okay.
The group mind. We're Marines. It's the Marines first.
The team
over the individual, which is very interesting.
Right.
So
for the benefit of the group.
Yes, and you build the team. And how do you do it? They have uniforms. They all have uniforms, a blue team and a red team.
yeah.
And so this is our team. And then you start to divide them, those their evil red team. And when we do that, when we divide, we conquer. Nefarious governments have historically set things up in a binary form, us
Right.
versus them. And governments will always, not always, but often, they'll divide male and female, straight and gay, black and white, young and old. All of these, when you make a division, it's much easier to control people.
So if there was an emergency situation
Yes.
and you had a government saying this is an emergency, you can divide people who say, yes, it is,
Yeah.
and no, it isn't.
Yes.
And all shades of
all shades of Hell's Kitchen. And
yeah.
You
Being
divide
very
people
careful here.
Brilliant to average. I mean, there's just so many ways this can happen. So then you can do
You just
blame and
such a
scapegoating. Blame and scapegoating. That's it. They single out one person on the team as the reason why they screwed up. And then they're causing division within the actual team.
because you'll have some people support that person, you'll have
Yes.
other people reject
Yes.
and support the argument that they screwed up, and now you have a division going on within the team, and you break down the team.
Well done, Watson. You're clearly growing up.
Oh, wow.
That's good. So you're getting the divided teams and divisions within the teams as well, which
All right,
again
so
breaks
Mike,
down stuff.
how
And we
do
got
people deal with all
Well,
of
we
this?
still have 3 more points, Christopher.
All right,
And
all
then
right.
we'll be wrapping this pecker up. Confrontation.
with it.
Blaming people in front of the group. He will say, you, come here. And he crooks his finger like, come here, all of you. And they have to come over and say, try this. This is raw. And I'm not going on. So anyway, this
That's
what
a
happens
great
is,
one.
look what she did. You idiot. He browbeats them in front of the group, which is very, very powerful psychologically.
Let me pause you there for a moment, because actually this happens a lot in jobs, environments where people have a boss, let's say. And what is the right way to deal with someone who is performing poorly? It isn't to scold them in front of the whole team. It's just, hey, Mike, would you come in? I want to have a quick chat with you. And you sit down, and then I say, hey, by the way, I noticed this happened, and I would recommend this course of behavior instead. This is a better way to deal with it. Thanks. Okay. About your day, right? As opposed to just scolding people in front of their whole team.
What I find intriguing here is you should take your own freaking advice.
Yeah, I know.
You're the king yelling at me. Talk to me like, pay attention. Whenever you're ready. I got my wife at the door of our place on Zoom.
Yeah.
And she's saying, I've got to leave. We got this thing. And I'm looking over. He's saying, when you're ready, when you look back, okay, Chris, I'll sacrifice my marriage because you've only got 4 extra seconds of time for me. Okay. This is what I have to deal with. And he dares to lecture the world.
Do you realize
through this
that
podcast.
you're now, you see, I do that to you in private, right?
You're the red team. I'm the blue team.
And this is the world right
This is
here.
the world. There's not one person on the planet who isn't watching this
I like
right now.
the clever way that you've just done what I've described to me.
That's good. That's very good. That's very blaming and scapegoating. That's right. And his confrontation skills are such. He's such an imposing figure. I said he's about 6'1". He's super fit, and he's scary.
My dog just came
not to
down
us.
here. There we go.
But the thing is, people. You see the chefs say he scares the crap out of me. I don't want him to yell at me again. And that's a huge control
People
technique.
say that about me a lot.
Now then this, shut up, then this mock trials. The chopping block, Chris, they have a chopping block. Now, not like the Tower of London did, where they actually sever someone's head from their body.
Well, that wouldn't be very nice.
The chopping block is when someone is screwed up, they have to go on in front of the group and stand at the front, and he berates them in front. Like, this is what people are avoiding. It's the mock trial. We're back to Franz Kafka. For those of you who read beyond the grade 6 level, you'll know what I'm talking about. But this is very, very interesting. And finally, my last point, you'll get this.
Okay.
Controlling through heightened surveillance. There are cameras everywhere.
Which creates fear.
Paranoia.
I'm being watched.
Paranoia. And it's interesting. When you think you can sometimes
in a
see
job, actually, that makes sense. Like in a factory, they'll put cameras just for security purposes.
Is there any here?
Right? Oh, so people feel that they're being watched.
Yes, of course. And they don't even have to be active. And the interesting thing is, the most I ever saw that was when I did a lecture for the RCMP, which is Canada's federal police, in Regina at the main depot. I was one of the few civilians ever to do that at the time. They took me that night to a casino in Windsor. And as the police, they took us past security right into the control room of the casino.
Wild.
So we could watch the cameras.
Like you see in Ocean's 11 and those
and
movies.
just like that, and tracking people going through the casino. And unbelievable. Now, when you add that to the mix at Hell's Kitchen, I said to my wife, have you noticed the camera work is stellar? There's so many edits, so close-ups and that. They are using dozens and dozens of like button cameras that are all controlled to do this. That's why you never see a cameraman. You never see someone even in the crowded restaurant, but they're getting all these shots from every angle. Occasionally, you'll see a tiny little camera
That's
somewhere.
amazing.
Which
So that
takes
puts
away
people-
the presence of the camera, of someone in your face.
Right. Which also means that because you don't have that knowledge that, oh, there's the cameraman. I'm on camera right now. There's the camera.
Yeah.
You assume you're on camera all the time. Yeah.
That's
like
right.
how we did that? It was
Yeah,
good.
it was very well done. We should probably rehearse it next time.
Okay,
to
so the
not sound so
paranoia element
conditioned.
of you being
paranoia element and cults, nefarious governments, they use these same techniques all the time. People sleep in dormitories, just like at Hell's Kitchen, which reduces individuality again. The rugged individualists are not able to just be, I don't know.
I don't know either. That sounds like a good. Maybe that's a good.
how we end the
maybe
podcast.
that's a good place to end the podcast.
Anyway,
yeah,
let's do a summary.
We'll get to empowering questions and
We got to end
summary.
this in the endery. Okay?
Yes, we do.
Cults and nefarious
because
governments.
we have other work to do.
We're at work. Use
We're at
these
work
same
right now.
techniques. Slogans are another thing. A short, easy slogan that people can remember stops people from thinking. You just use this slogan. Now, I don't mean you're the Pepsi generation coming at you going strong. Put yourself
I'm just thinking,
behind
if
Pepsi.
you right now are staying home, maybe you've heard some slogans that have been uttered by governments all around the
We're
world.
not going there because we want to stay on the air.
No, we're not, and we're not. Yeah, we're not expressing any
opinion
opinions.
of any kind.
We're just pointing
We have
stuff
no
out.
opinions about anything.
As I'm doing that, I'm looking at the monitor.
Yeah, you should have been pointing in the pointery. It would have been
Well,
stronger.
how about this? If I point at the camera while looking at myself in the monitor, is that weird? Okay.
You know, one more thing I find funny is people use ad hominems to shut down conversation and shut people down.
Yeah.
We see this all the time. Here's the one that makes me laugh. You're a conspiracy theorist. Now, a conspiracy theorist now has become a pejorative term that means someone who believes crazy things that couldn't possibly be true. But the actual meaning of a conspiracy theorist
Comes from history, right?
Well, yes. If two people are planning to do something bad, they are conspirators.
Yeah.
But here's the reason I find it funny. There's no UFOs. You people are UFO idiots, and there's no chemtrails. They don't exist. Both of them have now been admitted to. You got the U.S. government, the Pentagon, and the U.S. Navy putting out gun camera films of F-18s chasing freaking UFOs.
Okay,
So
that's
a
interesting.
given.
I've not seen that.
Oh, yeah,
That's cool.
it-
Now remember, UFO simply means unidentified.
Right.
Doesn't mean there's a freaking alien in it necessarily. It could be. I don't know. I don't know what's out there. I do not admit or deny anything here because I don't know. It would be really cool if there was life on other planets. I think that would be awesome. All right.
Oh, thank you, Elon Musk. So anyway, I gave you the scary music from sci-fi films. And the other one is the chemtrails. They're already talking about geoengineering now, and Bill Gates wants to spray the air with chalk.
Uh-oh, you're getting into dangerous territory.
No, I'm just reporting what's in the news.
Okay,
He wants
I haven't
to spray
seen
the
it,
air with chalk to reduce the sunlight hitting the earth. So planes spraying.
Oh, for global warming type
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
There's
All
all
of that
kinds
stuff.
of there's all kinds
So,
of interesting physics
using
theories on how
a
to do this.
pejorative ad hominem attack, attacking the man to shut down discussion, labeling people. Incrementalism, compliance sets, getting people to comply.
Incrementalism. We haven't really touched on
Go
that.
ahead,
but
Chris.
just
Well, I have
really,
another sip of this
incrementalism. You and I were talking about this earlier in the week.
Scottish coffee.
Just the idea that you slide down that slippery slope, right? So, I
Nice alliteration.
just want you to do
said
this,
just.
and then the next time, you just can't do
You said
this
just.
today.
You went just to just.
Just all right. There, I just wanted to.
Yeah, I know. And
slow progression towards worse situations.
No,
I'm not saying that might be happening
I'm not
in
saying
places,
it at all.
or it isn't.
We're going to say these points because this is so important. I'm going to give 2 sentences at most at each one. Incrementalism is compliance sets done continuously. Once you start to comply, it's very hard not to. So it's tiny, tiny, tiny steps, and then you look back and you've given away a lot. It's called sliced bologna ploy.
Oh, right.
Bandwagon, putting you against the rest of the herd. Everybody else is doing this. Everyone is doing this. They do it in Hell's Kitchen. This group is doing this. We want to comply because we want to be part of the group, which is why, did you know this is why public speaking was such a huge fear for so many people? It's because wanting to be part of the group. And it was Jordan Peterson.
And if you're
points
up on
out,
stage,
you're up on stage
not,
and it's faces looking at you.
You're opposite of the group.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a scary people. For some people, not us.
Okay.
So the bandwagon thing, you want to be part of the group. Repetition is the heart of propaganda. That was Joseph Goebbels who said that.
So if you can, and these all fit together, right? I'm looking at your notes. Just cheating,
I'm not
by the way.
looking
So
at yours.
incrementalism and bandwagon, getting people to agree to things in a group, maybe before they have all of the information that would justify such an agreement, but getting
Right,
them
right.
to do it and getting them to do it over and over again.
Repetition.
That leads to what later when people start thinking for themselves, there's now cognitive dissonance, right? Because
Well, of
I've
course.
already agreed over
Already
and over,
So
and
you're
I'm
going to
part of this
maintain
group.
what you have committed
Right.
to. I mean, look how we both bought the identical iPad Pro.
Well, I
to be
controlled
part of the
you.
group.
I told
like
you
when
to
you
do it.
turn your
Yeah.
data on. Oh no, you didn't pay for
yeah,
that
that's
option.
right, I didn't. Yeah.
Just the whole thing was just so I could say
Yeah,
that.
I
Now
know.
look, I said just. I didn't say just.
All
Okay,
right. And
another
we're
one.
almost
Three
done, I
final
swear.
points. An enemy, real or imagined. If you focus everybody against an external enemy, somebody in that group, whatever, that person on your team who's the O'Brien, who's undermining everything. We're back to George Orwell, 1984 with that. We're looking at, in 1984, it was Goldstein. They had to have intentional hate against this guy every day. So when we set up an enemy, it enables us to scapegoat someone and throw all of our aggression and hatred at that person. And when we do it as a
that
team,
enemy
it becomes
could be
control.
a thing too. It doesn't have to be a person. It could be a situation, couldn't it?
Yes, it absolutely could. Well put, Chris. You've redeemed yourself from all the other errors in this.
Thank
And
you.
sometimes-
Are you just love bombing me now so you can
Shut
berate me?
up. I'll never do that. No, there's anything wrong with it. An enemy, real or imagined, and I pointed out, we look at Heaven's Gate cult, I said, they're being evacuated. Charles Manson got people to kill. And we look at something like the Gulf of Tonkin incident in Vietnam. That's what started the Vietnam
What's that?
War. Vietnam War was started because the U.S. wanted to go to war against Vietnam.
Okay.
And there was no reason to.
Okay,
So they
so
had
they
a
made
U.S.
up a
ship
reason.
in the Gulf of Tonkin and reported that it had come under attack by Vietnamese speedboats.
So fake
now all of a
attack.
sudden we're at
Oh,
war.
we have to retaliate
So let's
now.
kill 50,000 U.S. citizens. Anyway, whatever you believe about that,
Okay,
read up on
interesting.
Gulf of Tonkin. This is mainstream now.
I know nothing about this. So if
Of course,
you're just
of course,
making
it's
up
history, Chris. Why would
conspiracy
you?
theory,
So
no.
you're condemned to repeat the mistakes. Ow, my hand! Damn it! I hit right on the very nerve of the hand.
You do that a lot.
I know.
I think you have. It's like the Saturday Night Live skit from about, I
Yeah.
want to say 30 years
Just
ago.
sort of,
There was a skit called No Depth Perception Man. I think I've told you about this, but it's hilarious. And I'm trying to remember who the character was. It wasn't Mike Myers or anything.
Right,
but
losing interest,
Oh,
but-
it was,
Yeah.
no, it might have been Kevin Nealon. And he'd be at a table, let's say, and talking really loud about
Yeah.
the dinner guests. Like, did you know that they're about to get a divorce? He's been cheating on her. And the wife's like, shh, they can hear you. And he goes, no, they can't hear. They're way over there.
I never saw that, but I will make a point of
Or
looking
he's in
right
the
now.
driveway helping the guy back up. Keep it coming.
Okay,
Keep
one
it coming.
example usually
And then the
enough,
car
yeah.
crashes through the garage.
Right.
Anyway,
'Cause of
no depth perception, man. There's
Excellent.
Mike Mandel.
So here's my solution for all this. Some people are controlling, whether they're individuals in relationships, whether it's cultic groups, whether it's governments. Here's your answer. Be informed. Find out about this. Trust your gut. And when you get a bad feeling about something, your unconscious mind is attempting to tell you something, part of the time at least. Open your eyes. Use your ability to see things from the outside. It's a human given that we as human beings are able to dissociate, look at the situation we're in from the outside and go, does this really make sense? By dissociating, we get away from the controlling emotions. By getting away from the controlling emotions, we're able to make rational decisions.
You know what? This is going to be an awesome metaphor that fits in. Ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Watch
ahead.
this.
I'll be the judge of that.
Check
Go
this out. Check out how this brilliantly fits in with what we were just joking
ahead.
about.
Good preamble.
When you only look through one eye, you only have one angle on the situation. When you open your other eye and get a different angle, you suddenly gain depth perception, stereo imagery. And you can see things.
This has been
when they're
Brain Software
changing. There you go.
Podcast 176.
All about stereo imagery.
That was good. That was very nice.
There you go.
Anyway, what I would like you to do, Chris, is give us the empowering
Oh,
question.
now I have to unlock my iPad mic so that I can read it. Hold on. Okay, here is the empowering question as I fill the gap, as I scroll in the scrollery to find the empowering question. Here is the empowering question for podcast
176.
Is this the one here, Mike?
It's the one we're doing, Chris. Yes.
What
The one we're in.
are the elements? What are the elements of deception that are new to me and that I need to know about to ensure that I can detect it when it's used on me?
Nice. And I have a very, very short MetaFIVE because we're going to bring this to a close.
Yes, we
And then I
will.
have a nice ending. I have a song for one of our listeners.
Okay.
Okay, you're unaware of this. But anyway, the MetaFIVE it happened last week. I was closing in on my 68th birthday and, with all the trepidation that one has about being old and dropping dead and everything. And my wife and I had some discussion about certain things that are largely irrelevant to anyone else. But she said to me, that's wrong. That's dogmatism. And she said, there must always be room for doubt. We can never be dogmatic about anything. And I said, that sounds like a very dogmatic statement. It was my finest hour.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Brain Software. This has been episode 176, all about control and deception and groups and cults and governments and nonsense that you need to stand up for yourself. And we hope that you enjoyed it. Make sure you click on that subscribe button on our YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening, make sure you go to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. We'll see you in the next episode.
And remember, these are days of victory.
Thanks again.
And
good night.
Chris, I'd like to dedicate a song to one of our consistent listeners. This is for Oliver, also known as Colin. The song goes like this. Isn't that the hospital where you died? They couldn't revive you, although they really tried. And the doctors have no answer, but they think it might be cancer. Isn't that the hospital where you died? Thanks again, and good night again.
All right.
Here we go. You should get in the zone, buddy.
Yeah, I'm in the zone.
You're not in the zone. You're depressed.
Not in the zone yet.
Okay.
Why are you so depressed?
Let's
okay.
go.
Ready? All right.
Yep.